Hello, welcome to News Center. I'm Parikshit Luthra. The Ministry of Finance has clarified on the definition of SUVs for the purpose of cess and taxation. 22% cess, 28% GST. While the clarity has been welcomed by the automotive industry, many like Maruti Suzuki are concerned about the high rate of taxation, not just on SUVs, but on all passenger cars. Some states have also demanded that multi-utility vehicles be taxed at a higher rate. CBIC Chairman Vivek Jory has said that an internal committee will look at whether MUVs should also be taxed at a higher rate in the future. This comes at a time when FY23 has been a record year for the passenger car segment, but two-wheeler sales are still lesser than 2016-2017. So what are the headwinds for the auto sector right now and the industry's budget recommendations? We're joined by Vinod Aggarwal, President of Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers. Mr. Aggarwal, thank you very much for joining us. Was this clarity needed by the auto industry on what will be the cess on SUVs? What will define SUVs?
Absolutely. I think that was the long-pending requirement from the industry, because the definition earlier provided only the engine capacity of more than 1500 cc and popularly known as SUV. And then it mentioned that SUV, it can also include two other parameters. One is the length of the vehicle, which has to be more than 400 mm, and the ground clearance equal to or more than 170 mm. But these two conditions were not mandatory. These were only saying that this also includes. So therefore, it was prone to misinterpretation. Then industry had been requesting that SUV has to meet all these conditions to become the SUV. Which the government has clarified now, which is a very, very welcome step, and it will put to rest a lot of litigation.
Right. On the issue of MUV, some states have demanded that it should also be taxed as an SUV. The CBIC chairman has said that an internal committee will look at this demand now. Would you be in favor of this high tax rate on MUVs as well?
But SUVs are very clearly defined. The engine capacity has to be more than 1500 cc. The length has to be more than 4000 mm, and ground clearance has to be more than 170 mm. Any vehicle which doesn't meet these conditions, that should not qualify for additional cess.
Right. On the issue of taxation on vehicles and cess, a lot of companies, including Maruti Suzuki, have expressed concern about this high tax rate hampering the growth of the industry, especially of the entry-level segment. Is that a growing concern for you as well, Mr. Aggarwal?
GST and the taxes have been the long pending demand of the industry. We had been requesting the government to rationalize the taxes. But at the same time, GST is a matter which is decided along with states. So therefore, this is not a point that has to be raised at the time of pre-budget memorandum. So therefore, what we have requested the government is that they should continue with the growth-oriented approach for this budget, so that more and more money can be spent on the development projects or the infrastructure projects, because that is very important for our economy and growth. And so that's what we have also requested government, that continue with the growth-oriented approach with more capex. Like last year, they provided 750,000 crores, which was very good. So we have requested that the similar approach should be followed. The other thing which is very important is that, as you have mentioned, we have seen that even though the passenger car overall market is doing very well, and we are likely to touch all-time high. But if you look at the composition of passenger cars, in the earlier peak year of 18-19, around 25% were the multi-utility vehicles. Now, more than 50% are the multi-utility vehicles. So whereas there has been good growth in the multi-utility vehicles, the entry-level cars or the sedans, which are less than 3,600 millimeters length. Now, those that industry has not grown, or that has dropped little. Similarly, entry-level motorcycles or entry-level scooters, that also has dropped significantly. Even though the motorcycle market overall might drop by maybe 10 to 12%. However, drop in these entry-level scooters or 75cc to 100cc motorcycle, that can be as high as maybe more than 20%. So therefore, that is a concern. And that's why we have also requested that these entry-level cars and scooters, they are also purchased more in the rural economy. So if we can boost the rural economy through some means, that will be good for the industry. So that is what we have requested the government, that we
Right.
should put some incentives for the rural consumers.
Right. On the issue of taxation, once again, sir, it's quite clear that this is not an issue that the finance ministry can do on its own in the budget. It is a GST council item. All states have to be on board. But would you at least urge different state governments not to consider any hike in taxation on other segments, for example, on SUVs? Now, this has been the tax rate and cess on SUVs for several years now. Only the criteria has been clarified upon. So there is no additional tax as such. But while some states are demanding that maybe MUVs also should get a higher tax rate, would you urge states not to consider any more tax hikes for the auto sector?
Absolutely. That will be very, very, the consequences will not be good. So I think we should not put any additional taxes.
Right. I would also like to ask you about some of the headwinds, some of the pressures that you feel are there for the auto sector right now, Mr. Aggarwal, things that could affect the growth of the sector in the coming few months.
Look, overall growth looks very good. It's only the entry-level segments which are being impacted. And for that, we have requested government to provide some incentives for the rural economy.
On the issue of electric vehicles, how do you see the EV industry taking off in the year 2023? This has been a record year, though on a low base for electric vehicle cars, electric two-wheelers, three-wheelers as well.
These are the new technologies which are evolving, and we are seeing a lot more action in the electric vehicle technologies, both in two-wheelers or in passenger cars, as well as electric buses. So we are expecting this will grow more and more, and we will see more and more electric vehicles on the roads in the coming years. So it is going to evolve. Right now, the percentage is very small, but it will evolve.
You know, the incoming BS6 Phase 2 and OBD2 norms, could this further increase the price burden on entry-level cars and entry-level two-wheelers?
Definitely, because all the new changes, regulatory changes or new standards, they increase the cost of the vehicles. So it will increase the costs further.
Mr. Aggarwal, as far as commercial vehicles go, what would be your outlook for commercial vehicle sales in FY23? How has the year been so far? And what could the budget do in order to spur the growth of the commercial vehicle segment?
Commercial vehicles are I would say, in a good situation to grow, because commercial vehicle industry has seen very bad recession for 3 years. Therefore, it's in the growth cycle now, and we will see good growth coming in next 1 to 2 years. There are still some segments in the industry which are away from the earlier peak. So therefore, we will see more growth coming in those segments. For example, heavy-duty trucks, we will see more growth, which are still away from the earlier peak level. Similarly, buses, they are still away from the earlier peak levels. Now, as far as what the government could do is as I mentioned earlier, if it is a growth-oriented budget, if the government spurs the public spending, and if it allocates more for infrastructure or capex, I think that will be good for the CV industry.